Good morning. Thanks so much for tuning into the Trade Setup. I'm Neeraj Shah. The global news flow first. In the slight positive, oil prices have come off because Saudi Arabia has cut oil prices in a sign that demand remains fragile. Germany pledged about €1 billion for India's 2023 green projects. Apple is exploring moving some iPad production to India as well, as per CNBC. And Asian stocks are poised to fall after US shares dropped following unexpectedly strong services data. I must tell you, despite the Fed's best efforts, it's not that the US economy is showing any signs of going cold. If anything, it continues to stay upbeat. That might dash any hopes of a pivot, if you will. So US markets did come off yesterday. I believe presumably on this, quite a bit of red out there. And the dollar index inched up a little bit. The bond yields moved up a little bit, 3.57. Dollar index at 105. CBOE VIX up 8.87. In fact, even the India VIX increased a bit yesterday. So a bit of a pullback into some of those factors. Nothing to disrupt the harmony of the market, but certainly to bring about a day's flutter. The SGX Nifty, I'd be really surprised if it shows any material upsides, if you will. About a 70-point downside, and this is to be anticipated. To be honest, irrespective of what the US markets do, it's very unlikely to believe that there will be a material uptick in the markets ahead of the MPC and the Fed. At least from our markets perspective, ahead of the MPC. So expect quiet trade today as well, much like yesterday. The index was better part of the day. The index was in the red yesterday before it moved back into the green in the last 1.5 hours. Nifty IT is now decreased for a second day on a trot, by the way. Declined by about 75 basis points in 2 days for much fanfare around IT, remember? Some of the move might have happened as well. We spoke about this yesterday, how some of the high-flying stocks, there were some cuts that have come in from brokerages as well. Remember, IT is no longer the sector which was trading at the dumps. It's now come off a little bit from those levels, so be mindful of that. Smaller banks yesterday made a big move, though. You have to admit that on a flat day, to see an IDFC First, to see a Federal, a City Union Bank, all of these making some very smart moves was interesting. But channel checks with people that I talked to on the institutional side, post-market hours, suggested there was not material institutional flows into some of these banks. So the smart money, HMI money, HNM money, etc. might have got into, but at least the brokerages, the few that I spoke to or message, didn't really have any major institutional flows coming into these banks. So be mindful of that. So that's the long and short of what the trade setup is. Frankly, it's not a very heavy day in terms of news flow as well, but I'll try and bring up a few things that I think are important. First, a bunch of newsmakers, small news, but Ahluwalia contracts, for example, as one of 175 crore order, or a Bajaj Consumer Care, which is going to consider a proposal for buyback shares on December 9th, or NDTV, wherein the Adani Group has raised its stake in the company to more than 37% post closure of the open offer. It's been down for the last couple of days. Can it reverse that trend as well? Remains to be seen. Remember, media is considered as a dark horse by a few people. So it'd be interesting to see if news channels or news platforms also get there. So there is an NDTV, there's this TV18 broadcast, and Network 18. There's TV Today. A fair degree of listed media players which are largely into news. I mean, Z and Sun are not largely into news. There have a bunch of other GC offerings. These guys, news constitute a big part. Would be interesting to see what happens there. Then some interesting bulk deals. Yes, HCC, I've been talking about this. I spoke about this yesterday as well. Yesterday's deal was done at 18 point something. Day before yesterday's deal, what 15.5 million shares sold at 19.19. It's just amazing how the selling, as it is ebbing, or it's showing signs of getting over. HCC, the stock has kept on moving higher. So pretty interesting moves there for this one. Do watch out, some smart money there. And this one seemed to be a clean out trade by CDC. The point is, it's gone into some very strong hands. Has Rainbow Children's, Medicare, Adia bought about 9 lakh shares, GIC 21.11, ICICI Prudential bought about 17.7 lakh shares. So pretty strong hands in which all of these stocks have gone. All of these shares have gone of Rainbow Children's Medicare. Could be an interesting stock to monitor today. There were other two block deals which I haven't spoken about here, but I must just kind of briefly mention that we should keep in mind. So Go Fashion, uh, Sequoia still holds about 10% stake. So there the overhang may not have gone. Gujarat Fluoro, wherein Inox Leasing sold about 18 lakh shares. Now, maybe the intercorporate loan is cleared positive for all. So, should be interesting to see if the Inox Group companies, including Gujarat Fluoro, react in the session today or no. Then yeah, thanks for that. So, these are the two names to watch out for. I mean, the Inox Group, which includes Inox, Gujarat Fluoro, Chem in particular, and Go Fashion. Then uh, MFSL, the stock, we spoke about this yesterday. The November update was very strong. It was up 5.7% as a result of that. A pretty strong move. Volumes about 5.4 times the weekly average. Delivery quantity was not very high, half of what the monthly average is, but on very high volumes. It closed at 241, making a new 1 year high, trading above the short term and long term moving averages, and it's up 10% in the past 1 month versus about 3.75% increase seen in the Nifty financial services space. So, net MFSL, not just yesterday's move, but even otherwise, you would see it's been marginally outperforming the Nifty financial services space, and yesterday made a big move. Let's see if there is more in store on this one. Um, some Before we get to the exit polls, some other things to monitor today. So, for example, there is a brokerage note from Morgan Stanley on PSU banks, state-owned banks essentially, and they are constructive there on these. So they are saying the cyclical tailwinds will drive further re-rating. They prefer Bank of India and Bank of Baroda. I think, remember, Bank of India, we had spoken about this. They'd come out with a price target which was 50% higher then the stock had rallied a bit. But they're continuing to be constructive on both BOI and BOB. They believe they have the best risk reward. In BOI, the price target is 125, excuse me. PNB, the target is 60 rupees. Bank of Baroda from 195 to 220, and Canada Bank from 280 to 345. But clearly, BOI and POB are the two names that they are fairly constructive on. Well, do watch out. Could be a pretty interesting thing. Because Bank of India uh, went up quite a bit post this note when it first came out, and I think the share price has now increased. Now it's about 86, but I think a month ago it was trading at about 70. Exactly on November 7th, it was trading at 70 rupees. It's gained about 22% in the last 1 month to 86. MS believes their target price is about 125. So do watch out for this one. Also watch out for MK on cement. They've done some channel checks viewers, and they are saying that the average pan-India cement prices have increased by about 2% month on month. The industry volumes have likely grown about 20% YOY and month on month in November. And volumes, I mean, because of the base effect as well. And they believe that cement companies are attempting price hikes of about 10 to 15 rupees per bag across regions in the month of December. They are constructive on Ultratech and Shree Cement. Watch out for cement. Like I've been saying, all of November, some pretty smart money has bet on cement. It could be an interesting sector to study. Don't go out and buy just because smart money is bought into it. Keep that in mind. Lastly, the exit polls, and we've done a poll of polls. So for Himachal Pradesh, it's a tight one. You would argue BJP 34, INC 31, others about 3. BJP in the lead as per the poll of polls. Let's see if this is how it turns out. It is seems to be just a no-brainer of sorts for Gujarat, though. If you just look at the poll of polls, BJP being given about 140, Congress about 30, up just about 10, others about 2. So, quite a bit of a steal out there. Will continue its incumbency, the Bharatiya Janata Party in the state of Gujarat. From a market's perspective, I mean, most people that I spoke to said it was a given and they didn't think it would make any material move, positive impact on the markets per se. So bear that in mind. May not necessarily be a big positive from a market's perspective, because most people said that the results were a foregone conclusion of sorts. Nevertheless, interesting. Watch out for PSU banks and small banks in particular. Though not too much of institutional flow in the smaller banks. Keep that in mind. The institutions are preferring their larger banks, um, so that is to be kept in mind. IT is seeing 2 days of a bit of a pullback, so bear that in mind as well. These are a couple of pockets that you should be keeping an eye out for, and of course, metals which have had a very good rally, but maybe there could be a bit of a pullback on rumors of some price cuts being done there as well. Let's wait and watch. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a safe day ahead.